Hello and welcome to pmblounge.com. This is our mini series on group creativity techniques. Today we are covering the Delphi technique. So we'll be getting into what the Delphi technique is about, and this, of course, is one of the many group creativity techniques that we are discussing. So the rest of the group creativity techniques that we have already discussed, the playlist to that will be available in the description. So go over it. You can check out all the other group creativity techniques that we have already discussed, right? So let's get started. Let's try to understand what group Delphi technique is all about. So if you have seen any of our previous videos on group creativity technique, group creativity techniques, you already know that we basically discuss where exactly group creativity techniques lie in your entire PMP courseware. So there are several knowledge areas. This video is part of the scope management knowledge area, and we have several other videos on scope management knowledge area. The entire playlist for scope management that covers every single video that we have ever done will be available in the description below. You can go over, you can learn the entire scope management knowledge area. By the way, we have similar playlists for other knowledge areas as well. So check that out on this channel if you haven't done so already. Right. So under scope management knowledge area, you've got the collect requirements process. So one of the processes in the scope management knowledge area is collect requirements, and within collect requirements is where the tools and techniques of this process, collect requirements process, the tools and techniques of the collect requirements process is one of those tools and techniques is group creativity techniques, and one of the group creativity techniques is Delphi technique, which we are talking about today. By the way, there are other tools and techniques of the collect requirements process like interviews, focus groups, facilitated workshops, group decision making techniques. We have covered all of these, and again, the link to them will also be available in the description below. So that's a bit of a background of why we are talking about Delphi technique and where does it lie in the PMP courseware. Now let's get on to the Delphi technique. So a bit of a history lesson here, and this might not be very helpful in your PMP exam, but it's good to understand where the name Delphi comes from and what is the significance of this name. So don't expect a question on this in the PMP exam from this slide, but it's definitely something that you should know for your information perspective, right? So this is from the depths of ancient Greece, right? So let's talk about this story. So we are in ancient Greece now. Delphi is famous as the ancient sanctuary that grew rich as the seat of Pythia. The oracle consulted about important decisions throughout the ancient classical world. So that is where Delphi is famous from. And I understand there are a lot of terms which you might have not understood. So let's move on. There are 4 points on this slide. That was just the first one. So the second one, the Greeks considered Delphi the navel or the center of the world. So that's the importance of Delphi. The Greeks, the ancient Greeks, they considered that Delphi is the center of the world, as represented by the stone monument known as the Omphalos of Delphi. So there was a stone monument which was known as Omphalos of Delphi, and Delphi is what the ancient Greeks considered as the center of the world. Now, I have highlighted two words, Pythia and oracle. Let's look into those two words. So the Pythia was the name of the high priestess of the temple of Apollo at Delphi, who served as the oracle, commonly known as the Oracle of Delphi. So Pythia was basically the name of the high priestess here, right? Who priestess of the temple of Apollo at Delphi. So there was a temple of Apollo at Delphi. The high priestess was known as the Pythia. So that's the connection, right? When we talked about Pythia earlier. Now let's talk about oracle. So this was known as commonly known as the Oracle of Delphi. What is an oracle? So in classical antiquity, An oracle was a person or agency considered to provide wise and insightful counsel or prophetic predictions or precognition of the future, inspired by the gods themselves. So that's a bit of a history about what this word Delphi really means, right? And if you understand the story, and feel free to pause this video and go over this story again, um, you will realize the fact that Delphi is basically a person, right? As the last point says, it is a person um, who is considered to provide wise and insightful counsel. So from this technique, from the Delphi technique, the expectation is that the 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 you know the whatever that is being provided, right, whatever insights that are being provided or whatever suggestions that are being provided from this uh, by making use of this Delphi technique are going to be extremely useful for the project, right? They should be predictions, they should be the precognition of the future, they should be insightful counseling, and that is why Delphi technique is used. So let's try to understand how all this history, you know, encapsulates itself and how project management uses this Delphi technique. So the Delphi method is based on the assumption that group judgments are more valid than individual judgments. As simple as that. So whatever that you do in the Delphi technique, the very basis of this is the fact that is the assumption that group judgments are more valid than individual judgments. So how do you practice Delphi technique? So in order to practice the Delphi technique, everyone in the group will write answers to same questions, and their answers will be totally anonymous. Nobody will know what the other person has written, and these questions will definitely be around either the project scope, either the project requirements, or the what are the needs of the end product that the project is going to produce, right? So there will be certain questions, let's say a sample question. And again, Delphi technique is from the collect requirements process. Remember that. So you're essentially collecting requirements for your project. You're essentially collecting requirements for the product that your project is going to make, right? So a sample question could be like, what are your expectations from the product, right? What color should the product be, right? Questions like these, any question like this, right? And you write down certain questions as a moderator or as a project manager. You write down those questions, you design that questionnaire, you give that questionnaire to every single person in the group. The group is obviously major stakeholders of the project, and you provide those questionnaires to the group. They will write their answers, and the answers will be totally anonymous. Now what happens next? So the answers are collected and shared with the entire group by the moderator, which is followed by a discussion. So as a moderator, as a project manager, it is highly likely that you will be the moderator for conducting this session of Delphi technique, right? So you will share the questionnaires with the group. The group is going to answer each question individually. You are going to collect all the answers. You are not going to name anyone. You will just read out their answers, and there could be a discussion among all the answers that are given, right? So what happens after you have shared the answers and there's a discussion that is going on? It's important to keep these answers anonymous so that nobody is influencing anyone else. It's just the answer. So let's say the sample question that we had, right? That how the product should behave, right? What should be the behavior of the product? And everyone in the group will give certain answers. As a moderator, you collect all the answers and you read out those answers, and there could be certain discussion on those answers. What happens after that is that the group may do another iteration. They may again make use of the same questionnaire and write their answers, and they might do that even again and again and again until the requirements are consolidated, right? So the first time the answers come in, they could be very, very vague. But when you, as a moderator, read out all those answers, people will try to consolidate their requirements and they will be influenced by the requirements that are mentioned by other folks, right? So once that is done, uh, in the second iteration, when you ask again your group to provide answers to that questionnaire, the answers that you would receive won't be as vague. They will be more consolidated, and then you can discuss those answers again, and there will be further consolidation. And based on that, you will come up with a set of requirements that are consolidated enough that they can be taken up as part of the project requirements, and a project can be designed around them. What's important is also the fact that Delphi technique is such a powerful tool that it can, its usage is much more than just collecting requirements. It can be used in other fields as well, and other fields like estimating the work, estimating the time it will take to accomplish certain work, right? So let's say from the requirements you are asked to create an e-commerce website, how much work it will take, how many resources you need. You can ask five stakeholders and they all five can give their estimates of the work required or estimates of the time required. Based on the answers you receive, you can have a discussion on all the answers, and then you can ask them to go for another iteration and ask them for their estimates again. This is going to give you an accurate sort of answer, right? An accurate sort of estimate where the entire team would agree on a certain estimate based on the Delphi technique, of course. So Delphi technique again finds its usage in many more areas, not just collecting requirements. And that is the reason why it is important that you understand the concept of Delphi technique, and it is possibly something that you can make use of, and not just in your projects, but in your real life scenarios as well. So that is all that we had in this video. Hope you learned something about the Greek mythology, the ancient Greek history, but that was not the intent of this video. The intent was to explain Delphi technique, and I hope you understand the Delphi technique in much better way now, and you'll be able to connect the Delphi technique, the concept of Delphi technique, with the history lesson that we took today. Subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already, and check us out on our social media, facebook.com/PMP Lounge and twitter.com/PMP Lounge. And as always, do check out the website pmplounge.com, your number one free resource for PMP certification and project management industry information. Thank you.